Hi, my name is Amber and this is my November wrap-up. This month I was only able to actually finish 5 books. I am currently reading a book, but it will not count for this month because I know I won't be able to finish it. I'm halfway through it and I will talk more about it. That book is the only book that I have actually enjoyed from this month, and that's very disappointing because, as I said, I finished 5 books, so I would have thought that I would have liked one of them. The first book is The Awakening by Kate Chopin. This does have actual other short fiction that she wrote, but The Awakening was definitely the one that I was wanting to read. And The Awakening is about a young wife who has children, and the relationship between her and her husband is a little bit distant and not fairly intimate with one another. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of love there. And on their summer vacation at the cottages at the beach, she has an affair with a man. I think he's an artist. And stemming from that, she decides to leave her husband and be independent and all this stuff. Very interesting idea, considering that at this time this was a very controversial thing to write about, I think, from what it says on the back here. But when I started to read it, I don't think I was in the mood to read about a person having an affair. And when I got into the actual reading, I felt like the story just lost its interest for me, which is really weird because I was very excited when I bought the book. So I will definitely be putting this aside and reading it for sure. I'm not giving this one a rating because I didn't actually really read any of it. So hopefully in the next year I will actually read at least The Awakening. Then I read Birdsong by Sebastian Falk, and I actually was only able to get past the first part of this book. This book spans 3 generations and the gulf between the First World War and the present. The protagonist is the young Englishman named Stephen Raisford, who at the very beginning has an affair with Isabel. The affair is the baseline for the rest of the story and the book, and that's where a lot of my issues come from, which is why I didn't finish it. 1, I just felt like there wasn't enough development in it. There was not enough for me to get to know Stephen, or to understand his reasons for having an affair with her, or even her reasons for having an affair with him. It was really frustrating because I felt like we were supposed to be feeling empathy for Stephen. We should be understanding why, but I never really felt that we had that chance to actually understand it. Also, he would go from the beginning of the affair and then he would jump like 3 months, and then next thing you knew, you were in the middle of the craziest part where the husband was starting to realize what was happening, and then the part was done and it was a year later maybe, and he was in the war. I was really frustrated with that because you barely saw the affair, and because it kind of felt like there was all these holes to try to figure out their relationship. You never really felt the connection between Isabel and Stephen. I felt it was very rushed, and there was never really that aha, I get why they would do this moment for me at all. And then when you get to the second part, I tried to start it, but then it was in another person's perspective, and I was like, wait a minute, this is supposed to be about Stephen, and yet I don't really feel like we're seeing him at all, even though he's there, but we're in somebody else's perspective, and it was really frustrating because we're supposed to be learning about Stephen, we're supposed to be finding out his story, but I felt like we were being put hand length distance from him. And then going back to the first part, the one thing that really bothered me was the way he described the sex scenes. Some of the wording didn't really feel like something you would describe to people who want to have sex with each other. And that, it was just disturbing to me. It was just really frustrating. You read to try to even get through, and I will have to say I can't give the whole book on a whole a rating, but I would definitely give that one part 1 star, not even 1 star, like a negative 1 star. The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. This is about Piccola Breedlove, who's 11 years old, and all she prays for is blue eyes so she can be as pretty as the white girls who have blonde hair and blue eyes. She is growing up in a very dark world for her, dealing with racism and even in her own community, kind of being the outcast, her and her family. The thing about Toni Morrison for me is that I only read one other book by her, and it was Jazz, and I felt the way she described things kind of took away from the actual story. What she would do, she would go on and on about the city and stuff like that, and the actual story kind of got lost in it. Not just kinda, it actually did. I felt like there was barely any story, and it was just all about how beautiful the city was, how it kind of resembled the jazz music era and stuff like that. And it was just really frustrating because although I get that's very important, it just kind of took over the story. Just kind of, there was no balance, I think. That's what I meant. There was just no balance, and I feel like this book didn't have much of a balance either, because I felt like she was trying to shove down your throat the message she was trying to tell, and the whole writing thing where she just overdoes it on one thing and it lacks on the other thing. It happened here again. There was just no balance, and that becomes even more clear with how dark the story is, because I feel like there's supposed to be some hope in here, but there is no hope. There is no light. It's just all dark, and it was very just heavy for me. But at the same time, I don't know if that should be a negative or not, because I can handle dark stories. I just kind of wished for a little bit more, a lot more with this book. I feel like I'm the only one who does not like Toni Morrison. Get that she's an important author, she's an important person to our world, but for me, I just have a lot of issues with her writing, and it could be because of my mood. Again, this whole month I was in this really reading funk, just a complete mood, and part of that had to do with some personal issues going on, but I don't know, I really couldn't get into it. And that was just so frustrating because I was really, really hoping that I would have a better reading experience with this one. So I gave this book 2 stars. Then I tried to read The Bookseller by Mark Pryor. This is the first book in the Hugo Marston series, and it was also his first mystery novel. This book is about, of course, Hugo Marston, who is the head of security at the U.S. Embassy. He was also an FBI agent before that. He has made friends with a book vendor, and while trying to find a book for his sort of girlfriend, he sees Max, getting kidnapped. He tries to stop it, but he couldn't, and now he's on a search for the kidnappers, and it takes him on this whirlwind journey, which risks his own life also. I get that this is his first mystery. I get that. I understand it even more now that I realize that this is his first actual mystery book. It was very Amateur Town. The way it was written just didn't grab me at all. And it was just like, you could see what was going to happen a mile away. It's so frustrating because I've been wanting to read a really good mystery book and I can't find any. For the life of me, I can't find a thriller or a mystery book that can hold me from the very beginning. A mystery and thriller, you're supposed to be proud from the very beginning and you're supposed to be all excited to keep going, but this book just didn't really have that impact from the very beginning. I know it had a lot to do with the writing itself. The story itself is actually very interesting, but the writing just held it back. I only read the first chapter, so I didn't give it a rating, but if I had to, I would have to give it 2 stars for effort. Then I tried to read A Change in Altitude by Anita Shreve. I was really looking forward to this book. It sounded super interesting, and I was just expecting more, but the main and huge issue I had was the writing. Another book in the Amateur Town. And it wasn't just how the story itself was written, it was the actual writing with the descriptives. It reminded me of when I first started writing at the very beginning when I was a teen and I was trying to write books, and stuff like that. And you can totally tell that I was amateur with the way I described things and stuff, and it was the same way with her. And the sad thing about it is that this is not her first book. It was even more frustrating to realize that she wasn't a first-time writer, because I could have given her a break. But the fact that it wasn't her first made it even worse for me, because the writing was just really bad for me. And I know some people actually like the writing, but for me, I just thought it was very amateur. And it could have had a little bit more detail, a little bit more finesse. I really just wanted more from it. So, 1 star for this. Hopefully, December is better. I'm already doing a lot better with the book that I am currently reading, which is City of Women by David R. Gilham. I'm very intrigued with this book. I am really enjoying it so far. I love the story. The writing itself, I have some issues with, and I will talk more about it when I do my review. It's a wonderful read so far. And I'm just so happy that I've finally gotten into a book that I'm truly liking. That was all the books that I have read this month and the book that I'm currently reading. Comment down below what you've read in November and what you're currently reading. I would love to know. Thank you so much for watching, and stay warm.